Homes first, and if anyone else, any other teams had things to share. We have one from Centers. All right, so we'll start with Family Home, and then we'll move to Centers. And then licensing third. Thank you.
Good morning. We're going to ask for an additional 20 minutes of Team Caucus to go upstairs and try to think about how we can get through some of these really tough things that are still on the table.
Okay. Centers and then licensing.
So this is kind of a mea culpa for yesterday when we were working on mixed age groups, and we were talking about on 0356 items 4 and 5, we had a definition of age ranges of 36 to 72 months rather than saying preschool through kindergarten, and we realized that is really problematic, because what we were actually intending collectively was to allow a kindergartner to be in that mixed age group through their kindergarten year, and by defining it as 72 months, you would then have anyone who was enrolled as a kindergartner, once they hit their 6th birthday, would get booted out during the course of the school year, which is not what we all intended. So the proposal is for us to be able to revisit items 4 and 5, and with proposed language to replace the months. Instead of saying 36 to 72 months, we use the words preschool through kindergarten.
The Dell team also, instead of having to go to TA on whatever number it is.
360.
Yeah, 360. We also have a proposal that we hope will resolve the outdoor play, kind of based on the conversations we had yesterday. We would be saying that it would be 30 minutes for each 3-hour of programming for children preschool age and older. For programs that exceed 6 hours, they must provide a maximum of 90 minutes, 30 minutes of which may be moderate to vigorous indoor activities. So we put a maximum number that they have to do, and we also allowed for 30 minutes of the 90 to be vigorous indoor activities. So we just wanted to throw that out there, thinking that that might resolve our problem.
Okay, so Kevin, I see your pinwheel. I just want to recap what's going on since some people came into the room. So we heard that Family Homes would like to ask for an additional 20 minutes right now for Team Caucus. We also heard Centers say they wanted to just quickly make a change to something that passed yesterday. So I think we can start there. Then we could, in our queue, and then we'll go to licensing's full group recommendation for program and daily activities schedule in full group. Then we'll follow the queue that we've rearranged. Just so you know, that would bring us down to 2 in TA resolution, and then 6 left here in full group. It is 9:03, and we're going, as a reminder, going to 11:30 today. Okay, so I'll hear from parents, and then we'll go back to Family Home.
So as far as the time frame that we have left, we want to try to get through as much as possible. And then, because we have from now until March to do the things that we need to go back and look at, so we can caucus about that throughout that time frame. So we would like to just get started and try to get done as much as we can if that's possible.
Okay, thank you. Family Homes?
So we would ask for a preschool definition. It is defined as 36 months in some areas and 30 months in others. And so I think that needs to be addressed so there's not confusion. There is state legislative laws that say 30 months. And so, okay, great, thank you. That is our final definition, is 30 months for preschool?
So that's actually exactly what Centers want to clarify, and it would apply across the board. So we would start with that one and then go to the outdoor amount of time needed for outdoor play.
I'm asking for the definition of preschool age.
I believe, Hillary, that's what we discussed this morning, isn't that?
No, the definition is 30 months, and I think what we were agreeing to this morning was 36 months through kindergarten. I mean, we were not saying just preschool. We were still giving the 3-year, but it goes through kindergarten, their kindergarten year. So that was just a quick conversation that happened, so.
Okay. So we can get into that when we get started. We still have the family home ask of extra 20 minutes right now. So I guess we heard from parents that we would like to start moving forward first. Any other comments, or if you want to give a little more description about what you're looking for in your extra time?
Well, I think that our intent of having this extra time is to be able to process through the tough things that are still on the table. Our membership that we represent are pretty hung up on some of these issues. We've heard a lot of negative comments about family child care throughout this weekend. We also don't feel like there is a good faith effort at negotiating rules that honor the style and choice of family child care. And we're gonna need that time to get through that to be able to continue this process. We would really, really like to be able to do it, but it's just isn't happening. And so if you want us to be able to proceed in, a positive manner with the best strategy that we can find, we could probably do it if we had a commitment from you that you would have a good faith effort at solving the 6 WACs that we really think could shut down family child care.
Are those 6 back on the queue today, or is it a mix of some on the queue today, some that we've already talked about? Mixed, okay. Licensing.
I guess I'm going back to our, all of the stuff that we agreed to begin with, and how we were going to treat people and think about people. I personally am offended by that comment. I have given up weeks and weekends and months, and we have, as all of these tables have struggled with difficult things, and we have given on things that we don't like to. We know that others have also, and to have it implied that we are not giving a good faith effort is a problem for me. I'm sorry. And I just felt I needed to say that.
Okay, so family home, still requesting their 20 minutes. Does anyone have any other comments, or just to clarify, we obviously can't move forward unless we have all of the groups present, or at least a portion of all of the groups present. So to clarify, the whole group would be out of the room? Okay. Yes, centers.
Could we please know which particular WACs so that we can at least be reviewing them if you are taking time, that we also can take time on those? Thank you.
Specifically, yesterday, overnight care, we thought we had a pretty good agreement that would work for families that need overnight care. And then Dell said they brought it back to their team, and there was just no way that they would consider that. 32% of family child care provides services after hours to low-income children. So we think that this will strongly impact low-income families that need to work during those times. The outdoor time, I think we don't believe that this is should be a part of this conversation. We think that it should be in the guidebook and best practices. We need the flexibility without the constraints to meet the needs of our infants and toddlers and our whole programs, and to be honored as professionals to make that decision. Assessments, program, staff supervision and documentation, education requirements. We have experience with this and how it worked, and it scared a whole bunch of people away from providing care. And the people that were left ended up getting a variance. The overall waivers and variance process that we have come together to align our standards for doesn't seem to be effective when you have 12 times in one negotiation day a waiver request. We were tasked, the legislature tasked us with building basic, simple set of guidelines for health and safety. We also have CCDF requirements. We came to the table to develop a good set of standards that can allow us to continue to operate, grow, and learn. And we just don't feel like this is happening. We also just want to note that 600 rules are too many. Does that give you enough information? Okay, thank you.
So I want to make sure that we all captured that correctly. So I see 1 is overnight care. That was tabled yesterday. 2, outdoor time. That's something that licensing has a proposal for. 3, assessments. We've reached consensus on most of those, I believe. 4, staff supervision. I also believe we've reached consensus on most of those. 5, education requirements. Same. Those are under PD. And 6, waiver and variance process. I think that you mean overall the number that need variance, but we also have 2 sections on the queue today specific to waiver and variance processes. And then I hear your overall concern that 600 is too many. It's too large of a whack. Okay, so of those, 2 of the 6 are on queue for today. Supervision of staff is in TA resolution, thank you. And in the 600 rule, I would say, for the 600 rules and the others, I would say that there's actually, the point of between February and March is to flag those that you want to come back in March, including cutting. So I'm not arguing either way that you should take your time or not, but something to think about if you are taking your time and across the board if everyone's taking time right now. Okay. All right, so it is 9:12. I think that we have to move forward with the 20 minutes. So it's 9:12. That would bring us to, let's say, 9:35. Let's come back together at 9:35.
know, what I find though is they have it mostly now, right? Like I was able, like just typing in names and birth years and locations of birth, it pinged me like old census. So they've already dumped into the database all old census, birth, death, grave, records. Yeah. They own it. Yeah. Yeah. They, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if like the Well, and the transportation one, we said, like, this is the potential impact for preschool, and we're gonna move forward because it doesn't have that, or it'll have an impact. I still agree. But I think they don't have the trust isn't there, and an individual. Your kid's awesome. That's your kid, right?
Yeah, it's my
Yeah. We asked him for, he said, oh,
I gotta work on his tape.
It's been very nice, and people have come up to me and asked what your name is, because you're a part of our crossword puzzle, and so, so she's very good sense of humor, and great family. Hey,
Yeah, no, good kid. Exactly.
And stuff.
College. Looking around, talking about it.
So he's a Huskies fan.
Hold on.
That's a lot of
So he's
pressure.
supporting.
I used to teach in Hawaii, and I taught middle school, and so a lot of my students are already raised with families of their own. But in Hawaii, it's very common to go to Washington State or Utah. and it doesn't even give people the skills sometimes that they need to be successful, even if they have them.
What is it, trade school?
I wish that I had the
2 years, you got guaranteed job coming out, pays good.
There's an article from the New York Times saying that we're in a crisis. We have no electricians, we have no all of these trades that we've been forcing people to go into the four-year institutions. Now we have this deficit, this skill deficit.
I do the convention for Washington Tech Ed.
Exciting.
Yeah, and they really push that really hard about technical education. And so what it is, it's a group that pushes K through 12 kids to get involved in technical ed and push them off.
Nice. So like as a hobby, when they're in K-12, and then so that they
They
can
find the path they want in technical and send them off to a trade school.
Exactly.
And they get go more that way, then they come out in high school or go and do something else. Training people for different careers that need to be filled.
When is that convention? Is it?
That's not till August. It's Spokane. It's like the first week of August.
That's really exciting. I'm glad that those kinds of things exist. It's so funny. We are a pendulum society. It's either one thing or another. We never can strike a really healthy balance. But you're onto it about training. Well, I hope we can get the show on the road here.
All right, sorry. Yeah, I figured I'd show up and be ready to roll.
No, we got it. Yeah.
Oh, you're on break or something?
No. The union. They said that they need some time. It's a really, I think, textbook strategy.
How much you get done yesterday? You didn't do any weights yesterday.
We did no weights.
Just done. Just work.
I think it might be like this close thing. What do you think about it? Yeah, I'm sorry. I tried to engage her in a conversation and she was like, maybe that's all presidents. Oh, it's a personality. Okay, it's not that she doesn't like me, it's just such a personality. Why wouldn't you want to be that? I guess you don't have a choice. Well, I
Not
had,
all the time.
well, no, I had a really good dad,
Yeah.
so that's like important.
Yeah, having a good dad's very important. A lot of families nowadays don't have that.
Yeah, another parent, Kelsey, she was also raised by her dad, and so it's awesome. Like they're amazing. So I can always spot out my fellow sisters that have been raised by dads as well. Just have like a different patina on it. All right, well, good talking to you. Oh, of course. So you're Leo, and you're Leo's kid, or also known as Evan. All right. Sorry, Evan. Sorry.
Yeah, well, nice job taking care of you, Evan. Thank you. How was breakfast?
Here's the update. It's 9:38. Family Homes have sent one or two people who are going to come down and report back. They'll be here in just a minute, so we'll hear from them, and then we'll figure out what to do after that. right, so we have a representative from Family Home. Is everyone else from the teams back? It looks like most of you are. All right, we'll hear from Marie.
So here's where we're at. Family child care providers want to ensure that we are making policies that honor our profession and that can build and grow licensed child care for families in our state. We think that there are many things to address. We also believe that the people who do the work understand the work the best, and we would like to invite centers to join us with a representative to come and help us write these policies. Would you like to join us for a half an hour?
All right, we'll just give them a minute.
So, Marie, specifically, what policies are you talking about? Is this a subset of, what are we talking about today?
We believe that a big portion of these are going to shut down the child care provider. Can you please take it? Well, hearing about things like overnight care, I already listed out the policies that were problematic, are going to make people shut down. We already have experience from the 2012 WAC changes that people just said, this is too much, and closed down. It's way too much.
Yeah.
We are not following through on the legislative mandate. I hear from centers that they feel like they're not going to be able to hire employees. How is that going to grow our childcare system? How is that going to help families? It's just not working. And if we don't resolve it now, then it's really a problem. So we need some time to be able to resolve these things, to keep us in business, and to keep access for families. The only thing these are doing is addressing the quality issue. They're nothing with access, nothing with affordability, nothing with compensation. That doesn't exist. You want me to stay awake for $2.50 an hour all night? We can't do it.
So, Center's response is that we really, and everyone, we really want to finish this process out. And if we agree with you on some of the issues, but we really want to honor everyone having a voice at the table and everyone finishing this out. We've all put so many hours into this, and to stop progress so late in the game, it just doesn't feel like that's right for everybody. If there are issues that you guys want to dive into, we are all about diving in and making sure that they're right for everybody, because we don't like the unintended consequences either. But we really want to, let's send things to professional development. Let's put language out between groups, in off hours, and have team lead calls. Like, let's get this right, but let's do it the way that we all agreed we were going to do it, so that everyone gets to have a look at it and a say. And so we really, really want to use the last few hours that we have here today and together and move forward and just honor all the work we've all done.
That's how we came into the weekend, and we're going to keep doing this up there on our own. And you are welcome to join us, but we have not seen enough movement or acknowledgement or commitment that we can move past those things as a whole team at this moment. So I could ask for a commitment to do that.
So the question,
I think
what would
that
the
would
commitment
be-
look like, is the question, since you weren't on the mic.
Looking through that lens of, is this doable? My team feels like they're going to have to lie to follow the WAC. They're going to, that's not a good WAC. If we can't all go back and say, this is gonna really do good for the children in our care, and it's doable, we just can't have it.
Marie and I talked yesterday night, and unfortunately I didn't have a chance to follow up. And it seems like the issue been brought back to the table, and it came to the crisis, or what we may call a crisis right now. So it's sad to see us at the end of the road with this particular one issue causing the crisis. I do agree that Marie has a valuable point. We are trying to implement, or we are thinking and considering to implement a new practice. Currently, licensing in state is not monitoring non-regular hours providers. We are not. State doesn't have rules like that. Would it be elder care, or would it be any other type of licensed care? We don't. So when the rules been developed, I agree with Marie, it's been developed with the perception of the best practice. And we looked at the best practice in the nation in order to implement what Family Home Providers team is calling a stay awake rule. So I will agree to pause on this particular rule, and I will suggest us all to pause on this particular rule, allow Department of Early Learning to go back to the research table, look at all of the states who are currently implementing the stay awake rule, which is approximately 6, my understanding is, and Florida is one of them. Look at their data, what brought them to the conclusion to start implementing it. All of them are not implementing it for a long time, or majority of them are not. We don't know what subset of data they have, but I would ask all of you to allow us time to do this research and bring back to you information between today and March. We will try to do it as fast as possible in a couple of weeks, so you will have it before March. And then we will come back to the table, considering all of the information, and make a decision. And I do agree that this decision will mostly impact family home providers. And definitely it will impact families and parents who will choose to use non-regular care. Okay, so if I would like to bring it to your consensus, and I don't know, Marie, how I would like to, if it's possible, to go talk with your team, or who would like maybe leads from each group, we can go talk with your team because they're not here, they're not hearing what I'm proposing. So do you want to take some time to discuss it? And if there are any other issues, Marie, whatever other concerns your team is facing right now, and it's why they chose in some way to bring it to our attention in this particular way, then let's look at each of them separately and figure out how we will proceed with each of the concerns separately. Sorry.
We have kind of a hard line of these things we can pretty much guarantee, based on our experience, are going to shut people down. It doesn't mean that they're not quality providers. It doesn't mean that they're not. It's oftentimes because their intention is to follow the WAC, and it's too much for them to do as a sole provider. In some areas, a sole provider that works many hours. So we have to make these work for everybody. The other one is the equivalency tables that we've been asking for 6 months. We have gotten nothing on that, except for we'll establish a work group. But we're gonna agree to a WAC that says, we already know there's a shortage of people that work in this field. We already know that there's not enough compensation to retain them. And we're gonna agree to a WAC that mandates it with we'll have a work group. It just isn't enough. We need equivalency tables to consider this WAC, these WACs.
So this is why we will need, Marie, a list of all concerns that your team is facing right now, which for you will be, let's say, non-negotiables, as they are right now. And we need to approach each of them step by step. And this is what the last meeting in March, my understanding, is about, to look at those core issues that we collected through the whole process, 8 months process, and figure out how to manage all of those core issues, and not so many of them, as we all know.
There's only a few.
If you will look at our thermometer, we may be facing 5, 6, or 7 specific topics that we have issues agreeing with.
Completely understand where you're all coming from, and I think it would be helpful for me, and let us know how we can help you in any way, if you can also tell us what could be in place, you know, like you just said, if we understood the equivalencies, or what would need to be in the equivalencies, or what would make it possible to, you know, comply with the safe sleep, which would be like extra payments for overnight infant care, so you could hire somebody to do that. So if you all could name what could be put in place to be able to do that, I think that would help us move the process, and I think we'd all be supportive of that, and anything we can do to help you with that, let us know.
I think that was our intention of inviting centers, because in all honesty, the compensation, while I think that early learning needs a huge investment, is not equivalent in this room. Head Start and ECAP are compensated at a much higher rate to provide higher level services. We believe that these WACs put us where Head Start and ECAP was just a few years ago at those standards, including the requirement of being an Early Achievers Level 3. What we were told was Early Achievers Level 3, all Head Start and ECAPs are coming in as 3s because they already meet these. Now we're being asked to meet those, quite frankly, for 1/10 of the compensation. So the resources that Head Start and ECAP have to write variances, and a legal team, and nurses to accommodate where they won't meet these specific WACs, family child care providers don't have.
So I also would like to, again, go back to what we agreed at the beginning. There are language of the rules, and there is implementation. Number of issues as we close the process coming in our face, okay, implementation is over here, and we all fear it. And I will not hide it. We also fear it the same way that you fear it, because we've been working on it for 2.5 years, and now we are facing the next step, implementation, and we all worry about it. I fully understand. And there are other processes that we are putting in place in order to ensure that implementation will be as we all discuss it over here. So we'll not lose a track of all of the pieces that we agreed on, that we will put in place prior to enforcing the rules. So I also would like us to keep this separation. I know that it's more and more difficult to do because we're closer to implementation and closer to it, so we need to start thinking about it. At the same time, there are other things that we may need to negotiate and bargain with family home providers, and in some way bargain with center providers, and do a crosswalk with ECAP and Head Start of the performance standards, so it will be applicable for them what we're talking about, and fulfill our consumers' rights in order to use the services at a quality. So we know that we need to figure out how through implementation do the same that we've been doing over here. Use the orange principle. Be sure that everyone are getting what they need. So let's also keep in mind that there will be other ways. Bargaining will be another way to look at the impact and talk about what additional resources family home providers or center providers or ECAP and Head Start providers may need to have, and all of the providers in the field may need to have in order to be able to implement it. And I thought that we all agreed that it's why we are developing this common message right now with all 5 teams in the room to come to legislation if we will need to advocate and lobby together. Because the message that we're developing right now and what we're agreeing right now on, it's a valuable message to bring to legislation, because it's not a family home provider's message or center's message or parents' message, it's our message. If your legislation would like us to increase the quality of child care services, then we need to have this level of resources. Then we must have other systems ready to support us, not only our system. So this is what I've been hoping we're developing, not only the rules. We're developing this huge collaboration and partnership that we've been missing in the state for so long. So it's why, you know, I understand that we're all worrying and because implementation is close by, but I hope that we are not losing trust in each other because implementation is so close. I hope that you continue to trust department that we will proceed as we agreed all on it.
So I appreciate that, Luba, and I think that's also what we want. I think that that is the end result of what we want. But again, we have asked 6 months ago for equivalencies and nothing. We came this weekend hoping to see some equivalencies. And we really feel like we just dug our grave.
So, and this is a question to all of you. Do the equivalences, and I understand that you would like to see them, and we definitely would like to bring it to your attention. That's why Angela mentioned the work group, because we will come to the equivalency from our perspective, from the state perspective. So do you want us to bring equivalences and put it on you and say this is how it's going to be? Or do you want to, through the preparation to implementation, all of us to have to look at the equivalences and develop equivalences that will work for all of us? So this is what Angela, I believe, been proposing. Yes, we can bring you a draft of equivalences, and at the same time, we don't want to embed it into the rules and list it in the rules because it's a policy. Equivalency will change with time. We don't want to have another 8 months process 2 years later to change another subset of the rules. So we would like to develop the rules that will be with us for a long, long, long time. So we will not have this challenge again for at least another 20 years, I hope.
So the other things that we've asked for, and I just want to put these out on the table, is real justification in that overnight care, and I know that you've agreed to do that now. But we did request infant rates and the very hard topics, and really got answers of, we don't know, we don't have that information, and feel like we're making rules just to make rules, that there's no justification that supports these. And so we just can't agree to those.
And honestly,
we're just at that point where we've
as
asked,
you and I talked
and
yesterday,
we haven't got.
As you and I talked yesterday outside of the room, we do not have infant toddler data that you're requesting. State doesn't have it.
So without the data, there's a big push for this new rule. There's no justification.
Justification that coming from the caring for our children, from the research that been collected at the national level. We specifically, Washington State, we don't have a core data because, as you know, in licensing, our data is not a per child age group data. It's per what license been issued to. Right. We even don't know for sure how many infants and toddlers are served at this particular period of time, because we know what license been issued to, and we don't know how many each provider is serving at this particular moment, because we're not organized as Head Start and ECAP per slot. It's a license that issued to. So we just now start looking at very precisely at different age groups through at least incidents and injuries, and trying to collect more data, what type of injury for what particular age group and what situation and context had been and so on. So we just now getting into it. So we cannot for sure say that this is why for the state per se, but we do know, that there is a national data and a national trend, and if the Department of Health will be right there right now, they will be able to provide you with the more specific data that they collect, possibly.
So we also know that Washington is way ahead of the game compared to other states. So national data does not really show me justification. I'm sorry, Head Start data does not show me justification when they talk about active supervision, because they are addressing 3 or 4 hours a day, or potentially a nap time, and it is check on often throughout the course of a day. It is not for overnight care. So when those policies are used as justification, they have to also be related to the same work, and they are not. So we need that justification. Those are the things that we can move forward on. We think that the people that are impacted the most, we think licensing is probably going to keep their jobs. Head Start's probably going to keep their jobs. We have one parent at the parent table who uses childcare, and the people in the room who this is really going to impact their ability to support their own families are centers and family homes.
So Mary, as I hear that 3 specific issues, and maybe there are more, but so far I hear 3 specific issues. Non-regular hours care, connection of non-regular hours care to their active supervision as in safe sleep, and another one is professional development and how we will approach development of their competencies or whatever chart is missing right now. So are there any other issues?
Those are the 3 strongest. We also just think that the standards should be acknowledging the professionals that do the work and being able to decide, is it more important for me to let this infant keep sleeping or to get my exact time outside? I'm going to lose 15 minutes, but I know tomorrow's going to be a sunny day and we'll probably stay out an extra half hour. I just think that we need rules that offer the flexibility for the professionals doing the work to be able to decide what works best for the children in their care.
So you're also talking about the amount of time, outside time, that conversation. Okay, so we have now 4 topics. Are there any other hot topics that we need to put on the list?
There's a lot of documentation that family home providers feel is not really applicable to them. It's being requested. A lot.
So what specific documentation? Is it specific or overall how the practices are documented is the issue? Because documentation of the practice is not only for the department, for the state to monitor, it's also liability for the providers.
The one that's specifically on a hang-up with the team is with their staff.
So staff records.
Right, so we know that there
Documentation
would be
related to the staff. So we're talking about the professional development section. Okay. So I would like Lori and Tina keep a track of those 5 specific topics. And maybe the whole group needs to look at those 5 topics and decide, do you want to add them to the agenda for March and specifically focus on them, if they're as hot topics as they are for all, or even if it's only for family home providers. And my suggestion will be, and I don't know how you will feel about it, if some specific subgroups will have some time between February and March to try to resolve those specific 5 topics and come to the suggestions at March meeting. If they're, let's say, not so hot for others. Seems to me like, for example, I will give you an example. The non-regular hours care, it's a hot topic for family home providers and licensing. Anyone else, centers, would like to participate in it? Yeah, so that seems to me that it's a conversation that needs to be negotiated and needs to be facilitated between family home providers and licensing, so that we can definitely, I hope Gloria, organize it.
Yeah, we could do an in-person meeting even.
Yeah, or between times, so we can resolve the issue and come up with the suggestions to the whole team. And if we can look at all of the 5 topics and decide what particular groups would like to chime in and discuss, because they're also hot topics for others, and then we can bring recommendations to the whole group in March. I don't know, will it work or not? Think about it.
So I have one personal thing about Safe Sleep that would really help us get through the Safe Sleep. It is only available online in English and Spanish. I am told that other people are taking Safe Sleep for providers. That means that they are not able to understand the rules that are going into effect. I have made requests for 3 years to have this available in person and in multiple languages so that every person caring for an infant understands the importance of safe sleep. And it has not happened.
So we cannot say why it didn't happen 5 years ago. I can't take, I hope that it's not fair from my perspective. Keep me accountable for whatever request been made 5 years ago. I can't take responsibility for that. What I can take responsibility for, again, looking forward, let's figure out what will be possible to do. I also believe it's not a department issue. I believe it's Assistant Attorney General issue, because specifically safe sleep, it's a high stake rule, a lot of liabilities behind it, and we do know that state is not allowing us to translate the rules per se. So that how we can translate, or how we can get the permission, is I'm looking at Tyler and trying to figure out what level of flexibility, if we can clarify for the next meeting, what level of flexibility Assistant Attorney General is allowing us to have around supplemental translated materials, specifically on the safe sleep topic. Because honestly, it's the only topic that state, not department, state is requiring us to deliver personally. So deliver as a department approved and department delivered training. It's the only training that state is asking us to do personally. So we can definitely ask Assistant Attorney General what flexibility is around it. Will it be possible to allow others, or would it be possible to script it, translate it, and allow others to do it, so we will have kind of a monitoring system around it versus directly delivering it. So seems like Tyler put it on his list, and we will bring it back to you. I think this is why you couldn't get it for 5 years, but I'm just speculating right now. We'll find out.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much, because I've been asking for so long. But it's also what keeps us from being able to move forward on this very important lab. We need the people doing the work to understand the work. And
so Marie, if it's fine, if you'd like me to join your
come
team, or so we can talk with all of them about what just happened. If you can give us 10 additional minutes and wait for us 10 minutes, so we will come. I hope that the team will come back.
Before you break for 10 minutes, I want to make a proposal based on the discussion. So right at noon, I'd like to put it just on the wall, a very large piece of paper. We'll put all of the hot topics we've already heard from family home providers. We can see what other groups want to join those conversations, and then while you're up here with us, add your other hot topics so we can figure out what conversations need to happen between February and March. That would be great. Okay, also Hillary has been patiently waiting with her pinwheel, so I want to make sure she gets a chance.
Thank you. I think one of the stickiest wicket on this is really professional development. We echo your concerns about not having an equivalency table, not having a competency assessment process that is clear as we are trying to negotiate in good faith, and we do not have answers that can make us feel comfortable about what that looks like. And in lieu of that, akin to what was discussed in the legislature, it seems to me that if you had a grandfathering date for current staff, you could move forward on the over time professionalizing, increasing the professionalization of the workforce, but drawing a line in the sand and saying, from this date, you're grandfathered. From this date forward, these are the rules that everyone is going to have to abide by, much like what we just talked about with the sinks yesterday. And I believe that would move this whole discussion forward much more smoothly, because that is the crux of the issue for both centers and family home. The other aspect of that is the training, and at least even if the trainings don't exist, knowing the delivery mechanism and whether or not they are going to be fee for service in person, those kinds of things, knowing the time frame, all of those things that go into it, so that we can make a logical judgment over what we are actually agreeing to.
So it is 10:08. Anyone have any last comments before Luba and the family homes meet? Okay. We'll come back, then we'll ask that you all come back at 10:20, so it gives you a few minutes to walk as well. And we'll set up the chart over here. So actually, if you have some, I'm sure you all have some hot topics at the top of your mind. We can go ahead and start that process as well.
I understand. I'd rather take it.
I'd love to finish, actually. I'd like, yes. So, you know that, amazing gross, weird, nasty. Then you get fragrance of like, okay, so we sit there. So all these crusties are coming out, you know, pulling, pull here, pull there, pull here, pull there, and then you pull out here. It's not just a route. And so we have to respect that. Like you can't just because then it just rips or it gets tighter. Like so you can have one of those it's a big mess. And we have to clean it up. We don't have to do it. And we're not coworker, I'll do it every month. It's amazing. Right? Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I can't. I never voted.
so my understanding is we're ready to get started again as a full group. We have the hot topics on the board. As you think of more, please come up, add them in black here on the left. Check off if your team wants to be part of that discussion. We're having this discussion between February and March. We're looking at dates and times, so before we leave today, we'll talk about that. But in the interest of the time that we have left, we're going to get started with where we left off. The first one I'm going to do is where licensing has proposals for outdoor play. Okay, so that one, anyone have the number quickly? 0360. Thank you, Rachel. We have the language from, correct, Holly? We have the language from deaf licensing on the screen, or on the main document, so we'll start there and read it. And this, as you may remember, is one of Family Home's hot topics, so hopefully we can do that together now. If we can't, we'll add it to the list and have that happen outside of this room. 0360. Subsection 2. Thanks, Hallie. Yep, I see it. Okay, I'm going to read all of 2A, B, and C, because that's really where the changes have occurred. So I'll read from 2A, B, and C, and I'm going to read the new language. A schedule must be designed to meet and enroll children's developmental, cultural, individual, and special needs. The daily schedule must, A, be specific for each age group of children when applicable, B, offer a variety of activities to meet children's needs pursuant to WAC 170-300-0150, C, include general timelines for activities that meet the following requirements. A, I, programs must provide children daily morning or afternoon active outdoor playtime, not less than A, 20 minutes for each 3 hours of programming for infants as tolerated in toddlers, and B, 30 minutes for each 3 hours of programming for children preschool age and older. C, for programs that exceed 6 hours, they must provide a maximum of 90 minutes of active play, 30 of which may be moderate to vigorous indoor activities. I won't read the rest since that was not a concern. Licensing.
We think that we might have that backwards. It should be a minimum of 90 minutes. What we're saying is that they don't have to do 120 if they do a 12-hour day.
So for programs, also I'm kidding, programs must provide daily morning or afternoon active outdoor play time, not less than, C, for programs that exceed 6 hours, they must provide a minimum of 90 minutes of active play, 30 of which may be moderate to vigorous indoor activities. Is that what you were looking for?
It's our intent. I just am not sure that it quite is reading right, because what we want to be saying is they,
So,
yeah, or but it shouldn't just be, I mean, if they do 7 hours.
yeah, but you can just say 90 minutes. That's what we were going to propose.
Okay, just say 90 minutes.
So for programs that exceed 6 hours, they must provide a minimum of 90 minutes of active play.
No, just 90 minutes.
For programs that exceed 6 hours, they must provide a minimum of 90
No minimum. They must provide 90 minutes.
of active play.
Yes.
So remove minimum of.
And then the
Minimum.
30 of which may be moderate to vigorous indoor activities, yes.
Yep, so we can remove that word minimum, Lori. Do teams need time to team caucus about this?
We know it's not quite. It shouldn't say
Maximum
maximum
is
or
crossed
minimum.
out.
Yeah.
So it reads, For programs that exceed 6 hours, they must provide 90 minutes of active play, 30 of which may be moderate to vigorous indoor activities. I'm going to put 1 minute on the clock for Team Caucus.
Oh, did he go? Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw that. I was waiting for you then.
Poor guys.
I was ready for you.
Frantically.
That thought you said that. Tells me I can't get the I was expecting battery or something.
Look at us, distancing.
There you go. Perfect. Full bars.
Thank you. We're going to add another minute on the clock if your team still needs some time. Senators have a proposal. Would you all pause your team caucus and allow that proposal? Okay, so heads or ECAP, yes. Parents? Okay. Family home, do you mind if we pause your team caucus, hear the proposal, then we'll restart the team caucus? Okay. Are you good, licensing? All right, senators, let's hear your proposal.
So we're agreeing with the intent of C, but we feel like we forgot to address that infant and toddlers is a 60-minute instead of 90, because we don't want to have to take our toddlers outside for 90 minutes when it should be an hour, a 60-minute requirement. So we just need to clean that up somehow, that it's 90 minutes of active play for preschool and above, 60 minutes for infants is tolerated and toddlers, to add that in.
Okay. So let's get back into team caucus, and at that time, during that time, Lori and whoever else wants to help Lori, we can write that on the screen. That's the end of team caucus. Parents, do you need more time? No. Okay, heads up, ECAP has another proposal.
So we are, we would like to address the needs of the family home group, of children who are infants who, so they may not be able to be right outside when they're napping and things like that. So we would like to suggest that up at the very top of 2, that it say the daily schedule must meet the following and be responsive to individual child needs, or something like that. So that there's a recognition. This is part of a, so that the licensor does not interpret this to mean that if you don't have the kids outside, that this can be more flexible for providers. Yeah. So developmental, cultural, and special needs, and be responsive to individual child needs or daily child needs or something like that. Just to recognize that that this schedule may change every single day, every single morning and afternoon, based on what's happening in that house.
Did I hear, Kathy, you want to add that word? So I heard you, individual and situational needs.
I don't know what a situational need
Can you
is.
give us an example of so program needs instead?
Requirement and like our neighbors who schools lockdown, but when they call me and then I lock down.
Can we use the mic so we can, are you giving an example?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd love to, I think it's helpful if everyone would hear.
I think a program or individual need might be, my example is, the police department doesn't call me and say, go on lockdown, but my local school does. Actually, 3 schools, a private school, a high school, and an elementary school, call me and say, we're on lockdown, because they're close in my neighborhood, and we then go on lockdown. And so that might be a time when we obviously cannot go outside.
I think that all gets written into your policies, so I'm not entirely sure that that's a good example, but because there's a lot of requirements in another section about lockdowns and things like that, right? If I recall correctly.
So I think that goes back to saying,
Okay.
the professionals can make the determination
Yeah.
based on the needs of their program, and we really don't think it belongs here. We think it's an educational issue and not a law issue.
Licensing.
We're just kind of floating back and forth between situational and program because we want to make sure that it is specific to the situation that has come up, not that a program's decided they don't want to go outside for the next 2 months. You know, I mean, that's,
situational.
yeah, I mean, we want it to be, that it really is a need, not a,
Well, not a program decision, that's, yeah, okay. And I heard centers were okay with situational, because you guys come up with many examples that fit that. Do you have any opposition to situational versus program? Okay, so let's switch to situational. Do you still have a comment? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, a situational situation could be that a child is incredible, a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old is absolutely incredibly engaged with an activity that he or she is doing inside, and we don't want to interrupt that child for this particular, to force the kid to go outside on this particular day.
So are you saying you don't want situation?
That's right. Maybe that's a day. Maybe, I believe we do.
Okay,
We
so
want children
we're
to
actually
go.
we're not in disagreement here.
Right.
You are actually supporting what is in here right now. So let's
You
just
should
go
give
with
an
it.
example.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
All right, I'm going to measure consensus on just the language of 2. Just the language of 2, where we've changed and added children's individual and situational needs.
And then did you eliminate the 20 minutes?
I'm only doing 2. I'm only measuring consensus on 2 right now. Just like the top part of 2. Yes, just the highlighted portion. Let's start here. Do bite-sized pieces and get some wins. All right, so centers, 5s, licensing. I'll come back to you. Parents. 5s and 1 4, 2 4s. That's what ECAP 5s. Family home 5s and 4s. We'll go back to licensing. Okay. 5s and 1 abstain. Okay, so we've reached consensus on the just 2. let's look at just 2A. That one actually changed. We never reached consensus on 2A yesterday. So A is be specific for each group of children when applicable. And then we cut the rest of the language. So measure consensus on 2A as it reads on the screen. Just 2A. Licensing. 5s and a 4. Centers 5. And okay. Others? Yep. Heads or ECAP? 5s and family homes 4s and 1, 2 5s. And we'll come back to parents. 5s and 3 4s. All right, great. So now we'll move just to C. So that's now all of this language. We've done B before. We only skipped A and C last month, yesterday. That's a different one? Oh, I'm sorry. Let's do number 2. B. Let's do B. 2B. Offer a variety of activities to meet children's needs. Just 2B. Measuring consists of just 2B. Centers, 5s, licensing 5s, Historic 5s, family home. Sure, 1 minute to caucus. Okay, so family homes are ready, so their consensus vote is 5s and 4s. Parents? 5s. All right, now let's move to C, which has the major changes. So this will be C, I, A, B, and C. So I'm doing all of C, as it is on the screen. Do you have a comment?
We do. We just thought that it would read better if we said programs that operate more than 6 hours. Or that are operational or something. We don't like that exceeds language. It just feels funny. Oh, sorry, it's technical. We'll go with the intent.
Family homes, do you need a team caucus in this? Okay, 1 minute? Great. 1 minute on the clock. That was a minute. We're adding 1 more minute for family homes to team caucus. family home, we're going to give them another minute. As a reminder, this was one of their. Oh, good. Oh, too soon.
We have an idea. So we would like to eliminate A, B, and C here because it's very prescriptive and family homes often have children coming and going at all different times. And so to try to regulate, oh, this child's been here for 5 hours, did we go outside enough, is hard. But we would like to add it into the beginning section that your schedule must include 90 minutes a day for a full day program. With the option of the 30. So we would agree to having a schedule that has 90 days with 90 minutes with the flexibility of the 30 minutes indoors if we needed it, and the flexibility to meet individual development.
Before we make those changes, it looks like parents have a comment. Would you be open to that?
Yeah, please.
So I thought that we addressed this when we were talking about it before, that it's not necessarily who has done and who hasn't done. It's about the schedule and making sure that it's part of the plan. So I don't know, I think that changing it at this point is counterproductive.
So to make sure we're hearing you correctly, what you're referring back to is yesterday's conversation, that it's not about each individual child, it's about your overall schedule. So our children can fall within, they don't have to have the exact 60 minutes or 90 minutes or 30 minutes.
That's what I remember Dell saying, yeah.
Centers?
A response to the suggestion, Mike, I think you're asking for basically what A, B, and C do, but muddying the water between infants and toddlers in preschool when you do that.
Right, because our ages served are a mixed age group.
And then it becomes problematic for centers.
If I'm one,
you know, this provides us with a framework where, and it can be flexible. I mean, if you've got 30 minutes for 3 hours, but you know, you're talking about it in terms of your overall schedule. We have children coming and going potentially. If you're a daycare center, you have people coming and going potentially at different times as well.
Right.
So licensing as a response, I think that will help, and then we'll go back to you, Maureen. Okay.
So I kind of want to refocus because I hear the concern and it's about individual children, but this is about a daily schedule. And so what we're going to be looking for as licensors is, does your schedule allow for, whether your child comes in at 6 in the morning or at 11 in the morning, we're not looking at that child's 90 minutes, we're looking at what does the facility offer. That's kind of where we're going at with this. We do have the be specific for each age group of children when applicable, knowing that in family homes, you're not going to have a different schedule for each little age group you have, because you might have 1 2-year-old and 2 4-year-olds, but in centers they do. So to us, this is a schedule that reflects what your intent is to do every day. And, you know, it sounds like we're on the same page with the intent here. It's just a case of, and so maybe that's what we do, is that we move forward with the intent, knowing that during this next month, we'll be meeting and maybe we can hash out some cleaned up language.
So we really like that idea, and we would like to invite a figures reliable person, because this also impacts having that on our schedule. If we don't follow it, we lose points in early achievers. And so there is some other additional follow-up problems for us if we don't have that flexibility. It's just, we're going to lose in one and gain in the other. I think the intent we all agree on. Get outside as much as possible.
Katie, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we are wondering if A, either
either, this may be a place where we just have to have a 7.3 that says rules specifically for family home care. I mean, sometimes we are bending over backwards and making this so complicated, and maybe this is one of those places that we have to do that. The other thought that we had was whether or not it might be appropriate to have your time, whether it's 60 or 90, be tied to the youngest child in the group, so that if you have a couple of infants that you're scheduling for 60 and then hopefully doing more if you have a lot of if you have some older kids. But so that was the other question we had.
So I think we can capture both of those, your suggestion and your question, for the hot topic group, I'll call it. I put it on the list. So I intentionally didn't put it on the list originally because I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to do it full group. Sounds like we need some follow-up either way. So it's on the list now.
Do you think we could live with making a schedule that reflects the youngest child in the group? Mostly because then we could meet it for licensing standards and early achiever standards, and that would be really valuable. And it also gives us the flexibility to do more.
Okay, so I don't think it makes sense time-wise to make all of the changes right now, because I think it'll take a quick discussion. Unless everyone wants to do it, any of you all want to do it now. Either way. We could have a sidebar. I'm going to ask licensing if you feel like this could be written in a sidebar in 5 minutes. If not, we're going to move on.
Family childcare environmental rating scale, the assessment of early achievers. But we would invite it as written itself.
And I don't see it as a problem getting it written, I just don't know that it can be done that quickly.
Okay.
But I think that we're all agreeing, we're on the same page,
Yeah.
we just haven't, I would want a little more time to.
Okay. I think that makes sense too. So let's move on. Then we've captured everyone's intent. Any last comments on the intent to make sure that when the rewrite happens, they're hearing all of your concerns? Okay, good. Let's go back then to the center age grouping, since there was a problem with what we reached yesterday. So Holly's going to help us with that one.
Okay, so we are going to look at section 0357. Okay, and we are going to go down to 4. Okay, so yesterday we reached consensus on the language of 4, and this was concerning children that are age groups of 36 to 72 months. The intention here was that 72 months went through the age of kindergarten, and so some kindergartners might be older than 72 months. So centers have come up with the proposed change in language on 4 to read that the mixed age grouping for children of ages 36 months through the kindergarten year. So I think we just have to add the word months after 36. And it would read 36 months and through the kindergarten year. So this is just clarifying language. All right, so we'll take reconsensus on 4 as it's written here with the mixed age groupings of 36 months through the kindergarten year. So from Head Start ECAP, I am seeing 5s around the table. From parents, I see 5s around the table. From Family Home, I am seeing 4s and 5s. From licensing, I see 5s, and from centers, I see 5s. Great. All right, and then if we scroll down to number 5,
The same edit is made here, and so this again is mixed age groupings. Yesterday we agreed to 36 months and 72 months, but we want to change it to read 36 months and through the kindergarten year. I'll give you just a second to read that, and we will retake consensus on number 5 with the language that it's 36 months through the kindergarten year. Okay, so looking at centers, and I am seeing 5s around the table from licensing. I see 5s from parents. I see 5s around the table. At Sturdy Cap, there are 5s around the table. And from Family Home, I am seeing 4s and 5s. All right, so we have agreement on those changes. Can we get a round of applause? Because that was great. Great, great. Excellent work. All right, so we're going to continue. We're going to move to section 0465. This is a topic or section in the program administration and oversight. It is retaining facility and program records. We census on 1 through 3, so we're just looking at subsection 4 today. All right, so let's read subsection 4, and then we will see if we can move forward on consensus. So number 4 says an early learning provider must keep the following records available for department review. A non-discrimination policy. B, strengthening families, program self-assessment or equivalent assessment. C, furniture, sleep, and play equipment forms and specifications. D, chromated copper arsenate test results, if applicable. E, annual fire inspection by qualified fire professional. F, annual inspection of chimney, wood stove, and fireplace. G, monthly inspection to identify fire hazards and elimination of such hazards. H, monthly testing of smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. I, monthly fire extinguisher inspection and annual maintenance. J, menus, 6 months pursuant to CACFP. K, food temperature logs pursuant to CACFP, if applicable. L, child incident and illness logs. M, medication administration logs. N, vaccination records for pets or animals housed at the early learning program. O, lead and copper testing results. P, private well and septic system inspection and testing results, if applicable. Q, center or family cleaning schedule. R, alternative cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting products. S, cleaning log for large area rugs or carpets. T, pesticide use, in parentheses 7 years. U, monthly site visit from nurse consultant, if applicable. V, Tacoma smelter inspection results, if applicable. W, restraint and expulsion policy. X, daily schedule. Y, curriculum planning time. Z, parent or guardian handbook. AA, documents from department visits, inspections, monitoring, compliance agreements, and safety plans. BB is waiver or variance form, department rules, if applicable. CC is written plans and drills. DD is transportation policy. EE is the car insurance policy. FF is the termination of services policy. GG is consistent care policy. And HH is the health policy. I'm seeing some pinwheels around the room. We'll go centers, parents, and then family home.
A couple of just minor things on the animal vaccination reports. We have if applicable on many other things, and that's really an if applicable because you could have animals that there are no vaccinations for.
Okay, so that is N. Is that language that we can add now in the room? And vaccination records for pets or animals housed in the early learning program, if applicable. I'm seeing nods around the room. All right, so we'll add that language. Parents?
This is more of just a question. I'm seeing the purple highlighting. Is that where there were thoughts to be duplicative, but then it was researched and they found out that it wasn't? Or like the previous one that we went over? Okay. Thank you.
And there was one more thing that's just farther up at the top was the furniture aspect. It was furniture, sleep, and play equipment forms and specifications, C.
Okay.
I believed that in our previous discussions of this, we had a grandfathering because this is a new requirement, and for much of your furnishings that you already own, you may not have this, right? For cribs and sleep equipment, we probably would have it, but for play equipment, you may not.
Okay. So is there proposed language there, or is that
Could
just
you
a
say
common
if
understanding?
applicable,
Oh, I'm seeing hands from the Del Tech writers waving. They look like they have an answer.
Hillary is totally correct. That provision is 0135. I was just looking at it, and it says, which we've reached consensus on, and it says, for furniture and equipment purchased after the date this section becomes effective, you must keep manufacturer specifications on file for review by the department.
So could we just reference that section there?
Yeah, that was
Pursuant to 0.
Yeah, you don't need to add language here, Lori. It is covered in 0135, so maybe just make a note about the grandfather.
So maybe just make it pursuant to that one.
Sure, yeah, you can do that, if people agree.
0135?
Correct, 0135.
Okay. So we had parents, I told Family Home we would hear from them, and then we'll come back to Head Start ECAP.
So we think that these need a little bit of restructuring to address the needs, such as some of the things that are notable to us is the duplicity of a cleaning schedule that probably belongs in your health policy. So we'd like to have a team that works on what belongs where, here's the policy books, here's how you address this, do it. We also think that there's a few things that probably don't belong or are not necessary in family child care.
Okay. So from what I'm hearing from your group is you propose that this subsection go to a work team to work on it further. Yeah. Okay. Is that something that can be done today if we send it out to a work team? Oh, we have 13 minutes. Okay. Just wouldn't take long. Okay. Okay, let's hear from Head Start ECAP, and then we will consider the proposal from Family Home that they think this one should go to a work team.
So we also thought this was like a weird hodgepodge, and I'm wondering, we have a whole section on policies, and I see a lot of these policies that are sprinkled in here. Isn't there, I'm wondering if there's a reason why they're all listed in various ways, or whether we can just say, all policies required in such and such a thing, right? Because we all know we have to do the policies.
Licensing?
The only reason I can think that we would need a list like this is for ease in knowing what it is that you need to have in your facility file. So it isn't, I hear you loud and clear, and I think a group to decide what ones are important, but I think that the list just makes it easier for a provider and for a licensor and anybody else to know exactly what those things are instead of going from whack to whack to whack to whack to find it.
Okay. So what I'm hearing from some of the team leads that are talking is that it would be valuable to send this one to a work group for additional work. Is that correct from team leads? I'm seeing a nod from a parent. Centers are saying yes. Licensing? Okay. All right, so we will send 465, subsection 4. We will add that to our TA resolution queue for additional work. The next subsection that we had in our queue, all right, is 0485. This is the termination of services policy. We reached consensus on 1. And so we are only looking at subsection 2 right now. And so I'm going to read the language that is in the box. Again, this is section 0485. The language reads, for number 2, an early learning provider must have and follow a termination of services policy that is communicated with parents. This policy must include A, the reasons and timelines for termination, B, strategies used to communicate a risk of service termination. Attempts to communicate to a parent the potential for terminating services must be kept in the child's file. And C, situations that may result in immediate termination. All right, so we have read subsection 2. Are there any teams that need time for an individual team caucus? Okay, Then we will call for consensus on subsection 2. So from centers, I'm seeing 5s around the table, and I think that's a 5, not a 4. From licensing, I'm seeing 5s around the table.
Can someone explain B to us? It just seems, oh, I see. So attempts to communicate to a parent must be kept in the file. So yeah, I think our problem is grammatical. Sorry.
Okay.
So maybe the attempts to communicate thing needs to be D or something like that. Or something.
So what I'm hearing, what I'm hearing from you, Allison, is that B really is related to the policy. A policy would be what are the strategies, and then the sentence about the attempts to communicate, that's more of the documentation that the policy has been implemented. So it may belong somewhere else.
Did we get rid of all the rest of the stuff about documentation?
This section, I believe, is just 1 and 2.
So I don't necessarily want to add something that's going to give us another weight.
Licensing, do you have?
I would just propose that that line attempts to communicate be kept in the child's file, that documentation piece, just be C.
Okay.
And then D, so that they're all part of the same whack, but they're different duties within that whack.
Okay.
One is a policy, one is a process that you're doing.
Is the practice. Okay. So the proposal is that the attempts to be made, or the attempts that are documented are now subsection C. Are there any additional comments or questions before we take consensus, continue consensus around the room?
I don't care.
Licensing?
We do know that that doesn't quite fit with 2, but C doesn't quite fit with 2, so it almost needs to be a...
If we moved this sentence to become a new C.
Yeah. It just doesn't fit with the overarching must have and follow a termination of service policy.
Could this sentence be added to number 1? The attempts to communicate that should be documented could fall as D under number 1.
Sure.
Okay.
It would fit better there.
Okay. So let's add that to number 1. And I just want to see consensus that we are okay moving this sentence to number 1. So number 1 would read, an early learning provider may terminate a child's early learning services due to the parent or guardian's inability to meet expectations outlined in the early learning program contract. Reasons for terminating services include, but are not limited to, unpaid bills, continual late arrivals or pickups, a parent or guardian, family members, inappropriate or unsafe behavior in or near early learning program space, and D, attempts to communicate to a parent the potential for terminating services must be kept in the child's file. Licensing?
And I know we're not doing weights right now, but my only comment would be A, B, and C can be a NA, but because D now has a must, we would need to be considering a weight down the road on that one.
Okay. Head Start?
I don't actually think it fits there, and I'm curious if we go back and we make it a 3, but we keep the weight as a 4 for 2 and 3. So it doesn't add another weight, but it doesn't become a subset of 2, but it just becomes a 3, and that all stays, 2 and 3 stay combined as a weighted 4. It doesn't read in either way.
Okay.
I have a proposal. What if 2 reads, an early learning provider must, A, have a termination of services policy that includes A and C, A, B, and C, and then must follow the policy, including providing attempts to communicate.
Okay.
Whatever, so make it A and B, and then A, B, and C, 1, 2, 3.
Okay, so let me read number 2 now that we've moved that sentence kind of up and down a couple times. So number 2 would read, an early learning provider must have and follow a termination of services policy that is communicated with parents. Attempts to communicate to the parent the potential for terminating services must be kept in a child's file. This policy must include A, the reasons for timelines for the termination, B, strategies used to communicate a risk of service termination, and C, situations that may result in immediate termination. All right. Well, we'll take consensus on 2 as it. Oh. Were those comments or consensus? Did you have a comment or consensus? All right. I do see a pinwheel, so I know that's a comment.
So we actually have another recommendation of adding to number 1, documentation for termination. So documenting the reason for termination, services include but are not limited to, and then the reasons why you can terminate, and removing number 2. I think in a family home, you should be able to do that. You make a personal relationship that is not a public relationship with the family to care for services in your home, and it should definitely not be weighted.
You are talking about combining 2 and 1 into a single subsection. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So it would read, an early learning provider may terminate child's early learning services to a parent or guardian's inability to meet expectations outlined in the early learning program contract. Documentation for terminating services must be kept on file and may include but are not limited to, and then the following things, and eliminate number 2.
Do teams need a moment to read that and discuss? Yes. Okay, so let's put 1 minute on the clock for a team caucus to review the proposal of the language in 1 and the striking of 2.
We sidebar with family homes for just 1 minute?
Yes, we'll put a minute on the clock for a sidebar between licensing and family home. It looks like our sidebar is including all teams. sidebar. We're going to put 30 seconds on the clock so that your sidebar participant can debrief with the team. All right, we're coming back together, and I see a pinwheel from the parents team.
So we are hoping that we can add a reference to whatever the WAC number is for the parent handbook in terms of the process of how you would be terminated. It's supposed to be in the parent handbook, and so we don't necessarily think that has to be laid out again, but we do want it referenced so that there's like a back and forth.
So where would you insert that reference in number 1?
Yeah, that would be wordsmithing.
Okay.
So I want to make sure that
Okay.
Yeah, pursuant to the, yes, exactly, Laura, thank you. I don't know what the WAC number is.
Okay. All right. So let me read one again with that additional comment. So an early learning provider may terminate a child's early learning services due to a parent or guardian's inability to meet expectations outlined in the early learning program's contract pursuant to WAC, and we would reference the parent handbook there. Documentation for terminating services must be kept on file and may include, but are not limited to, unpaid bills, continual late arrivals or pickups, or a parent or guardian or family member's inappropriate or unsafe behavior in or near early learning program space. All right, and the proposal included striking 2, and so we will take consensus on the language of 1 with the striking of 2. So I'm looking at centers, and around the table I am seeing 5s from licensing, I see 5s from parents, I see 5s from Head Start ECAP, I see 5s around the table, and from Family Home, I see 5s. Give yourself a big round of applause. All right, so we have that section complete.
Okay, so it is 11:38. So what's really good news is that we had about an hour of negotiation time today. We went through 3, so you're still on pace. So as you remember, 2.5 was our average pace. Yesterday you're about 3, so great job. Give a round of applause for that. We had 19 yesterday, 3 more today, so we're at 21. So I'm going to plug this in really quick, actually. While I do this, it is public comment time. So the public comment members back there told me they don't have anything today, but Hallie has one. So I'll pass it to her, and then if you guys do come up, decide you want to speak, please let us know.
Okay, so we had a member of the public comment, a member of the public come yesterday after we had ended early, and so she was able to give us a Word document of her public comment, and so that's just what I'm going to read now so that we have it on record. So this comment says, my name is Rebecca Maldonado Knopfsinger. I worked as a public health nurse consultant for 2 years. I provided monthly infant nurse consultant visits to child care centers, reviewed health policies, and assisted to help directors and teachers have safe medication management. I am now working on attaining a Doctor of Nursing practice in community health nursing. My passion to further my degree is because of the work I have done as a nurse consultant in the child care centers. Infant and children are some of the most vulnerable populations in our community. Providing interventions and preventions early on to infants and families assist the infant long-term in an overall positive health and well-being. Additionally, providing supports at an early age assists to prevent the pipeline to prison phenomena. Vulnerable populations, infants, and those with disabilities are more likely to be excluded from child care centers. A nurse consultant can provide expertise to teachers, directors, and families, or refer families to the necessary resources in order for the infant to develop to their fullest potential. These supports both provide immediate and long-term benefits to the individual, family, community, and society. As you know, the Early Head Start Act mandated a standard realignment process for the WACs that govern licensed childcare. Currently, several WACs are at risk of elimination following this process. Proposed WAC 170-300-275 would remove the requirement for childcare centers caring for 4 or more infants to work with an infant nurse consultant, and proposed WACs 170-300-500 and 170-300-215 weaken requirements for the regular review of health policies and safe medication management. Proposed WACs 170-300-500 and 170-300-215 weaken requirements for the regular review of healthcare policies and safe medication management, putting the health and safety of children further at risk and removing important protections for children with disabilities that ensure their families are able to find adequate and safe care. While I recognize the significant barriers in inequities in access, I urge you to seek a solution that bolsters and improves the child care health consultation system rather than eliminate it. The health of our youngest and most vulnerable children is a priority that deserves full protection and funding, and Dell should avoid modifications or eliminations that would reduce protections for health and safety in child care settings, as well as grow support and funding for child care health consultation for all young children in our state. I urge you to stop the limitation and weakened WAC proposals that place infants in further vulnerable positions. Let's work together to find a way to keep infants safe and improve their well-being.
All right, thank you, Hallie, for reading that one. As a reminder, they came yesterday, but we wrapped up early. It's the first time we wrapped up early, so we missed that. Anyone from the public that? Okay, great. Thanks for coming again. All right. Let's just do some final wrap up. I want to start off by thanking everyone, thanking Family Home providers for talking to us this morning about what was really on your mind. I'm really glad that we came to a good solution. I think that across the room, across the board, I heard that people are excited and happy about the solution because there are a lot of hot topics that there's agreement they're hot topics. So let's take another quick look at this. It's our core values. I think that a lot of what the hot topics speak to are our core values. And we always talk about this at the beginning, that in the middle of it all, the whole point of this whole process, all the hard work and time that you've spent here in NRM, but also in your careers, what you've dedicated your lives to, is all about child development, health, and safety. So I'm going to put just a minute on the clock. I want to ask everyone to think about just one child that's special to you. It can be your own child or someone that you care for in your work. And let's think about that child and keep it in mind. So again, putting a full minute on the clock, just to have everyone take a second to remember what the core of what we're really here to do. Thank you so much. I want to ask you to keep that thought, that focus in your mind as we go through the next month. We have a lot more to do, and these are even more. We said that this weekend is going to be our hot topics, but we know even more so that in the next month, all the work in between will be very contentious, very near and dear to your hearts. So let's remember to keep the focus on why we're doing all of this work. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for your passion and commitment. Okay, so final logistics, because I know that you all want to get out of here. It's been a long weekend. Let's start with the hot topics conversation. As Lori mentioned, she's proposing that these happen in person. I agree. I think most would agree that those are most effective. We just really sit down, hunker down, and get through these. So we're proposing Saturday, February 24th. That's a date that works really well for parents. What we're asking is that each group send maximum of 2 people. And I'm saying maximum of 2 people because we want to make sure it's fair. I'll hear comments after in just a minute. The point of stating a maximum is that every group has equal representation, equal say, so it doesn't feel like there's a huge team that is overshadowing a small team. So what I'm proposing here is a full day on Saturday. In terms of the way contracts are set up and Dell's resources, that's the best option, a full day. So lunch will be provided. And we're planning to do that in CTAC. We've heard over and over that's the most central location, at least for this group, to meet. So if that's the date that we agree to, then Rachel will work her magic as usual and find a space. So I'll hear comments first about the Saturday 24th proposal. Family Home, I know you have some already.
So unfortunately, we have our leadership and steering council meeting on the 24th. So we are maybe potentially willing to do the 25th on a Sunday. if that could be agreeable. Or potentially the week before. I know that that is coming up soon and that's a holiday weekend, so I don't know if that will work.
I know parents told me that Saturday or Sunday, that same weekend works for you also. Sunday, the 25th is also available for parents. Others on the date or the plan overall? Yes, centers?
Centers, we can figure out a team that could do that, but not the 21st weekend. The 24th or 5th would, or the weekend before would not work, but the 24th or 5th would work.
Okay, so I'm hearing so far that Sunday, the 25th sounds like the best option so far. Licensing.
Dell would prefer Sunday the 25th.
Okay, Head Start ECAP. We just need 2 people from each group, so. All right, so let's talk about the 2 people from each group. Anyone have any comments about that? That sounds doable. Parents would like just 1 minute. Make sure. Okay, so we're thinking about Sunday the 25th, full day in CTAC. 9 to 5 is what a full day means. We're going to put 1 more minute on the clock for Team Caucus. so the parents were the ones who need more time. They're all set. Anyone else need more time? Okay, let's get back together. I had a clarifying question, which is about the different topics. So we'll actually set aside from 9 to 5 exactly what time we're talking about each topic, so that people can, as you see, not everyone is on every single topic, so you can know exactly when you're coming, when you should be coming. From 9 to 5, we'll split it up. So let's say 9 to 10 is overnight care, 10 to 11 is safe sleep, right? So then you know exactly when you want to come to which topic is important to you. Both you as an individual and you as a team. Okay, so anyone have any problems with the 25th? Sending at least 2 people, maximum 2 people. Looks like centers are still talking. Oh, okay, sounds like you guys said it's fine, you just don't know exactly who yet, right? That's what you're still discussing. So we don't need to know who yet today to convene today. So, all right, we have just 8 more minutes. If I could just keep you guys for 8 more minutes, we'll finish out today. So in between, I still want to propose a prep team call that cleans up other items from this weekend that are not the hot topics. Right, so they would go back and look at any rewrites, any data that was sent back, bring up any other flagged items that they want the full review from your team, and also flag any definitions we want to talk about in March. Basically help us set the agenda for March. So I'm proposing right here week of February 19th, and we'd send a doodle poll out per usual to figure out exactly when that prep team would be, and that would be a call, a webinar again. Okay, so that's the week of February 19th. I know the 19th is a holiday, so it's going to be a Tuesday through sometime Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yes, centers.
For the prep team agenda, can we add the rough draft of the equivalency table that team leads could then share with their teams?
Equivalency table is on the hot topic list. So
okay, we were told there was a rough draft, so we're just wondering when that'll be distributed. So teams
okay, so yes, I'm saying yes, Dell will be able to do that. Okay, so what that looks like for March when we come together, everything on the left-hand side is going to influence what happens in March, obviously, right? So we will do our best to figure out prioritization. We know that hot topics are, of course, going to be on the top, and we'll use the prep team to help us figure out what else is needed. So I just have one question at the bottom here for you all. Doesn't feel like we're going to have the time, so what kind of updates do you want from us on the weight balancing review, or is that okay to happen afterwards? I'm hearing afterwards from Family Home, it's okay to, okay, I see Head Nots from Head Start ECAP. If you change your mind, we'll talk about it during the prep team. Yes, Head Start ECAP, do something? Okay. All right, I'm going to move on then from agendas. Does anyone have any last comments about what last meetings we had? Yes.
So I mentioned earlier that, and I see the implementation timeline on here and updates. I mentioned earlier how important I think it is to have an outward-facing communications document from Dell as soon as possible that explains what the process is going to be on the professional development requirements for this.
It's added to the agenda.
Yes, we can add it. So
Thank
I'm
you.
hearing yes from Dell. We'll add it to the agenda. But you guys want to get that as soon as possible. We can have that handout in March for review. Comments. Okay. All right, just one last topic we're going to talk about. We're obviously coming to an end on our negotiated rulemaking process. As you know, we've said this many times, especially when we've worked in a lot of states, this is a very rare opportunity that's been a really amazing thing to be a part of. And I hope you feel the same way. Overall, we talked about earlier how the message that we want to come out of this is that all of you are a team advocating for the needs, this long list of parking lot items, long list of resources that you know need to come out of it. So what we want to do is propose just a reflection survey. I'm proposing something like 5 questions for everyone to take in the room before March so we can hear what you think about the process and celebrate successes. So we have some thoughts, Dell has some thoughts about what we want to ask. What else do you want to hear from each other in this survey? You can tell me now or think about it in pause. Luba?
Would like to be part of the advisory committee, Standards Alignment Advisory Committee, please contact Rachel. So she will put you in the listserv and you will be contacted. It's bi-weekly, so we have 2 meetings by months, in months, or whatever I have to say, sorry. Now I'm on vacation. So Rachel's here, they'll let you know.
Okay, so I didn't see any strong opinions about what to collect in the survey. Again, we have some thoughts. I will let you know that we want to use this to help celebrate successes in this room in March as our final hurrah at the very end so we can celebrate. But also, PCG and Dell, we really want to write about the process and share this with other agencies across Washington. A lot of agencies are already asking about it. We also want to share nationally. We want to share with other states. And I've actually done a little bit of that, and they're like, that's insane. What are you talking about? How are you doing it? So we want to write up the best practices, and what better way than to hear from you directly. So you'll see some kind of those types of questions in that survey. Yeah.
When it comes to celebrating success,
can you use your mic, please?
I guess so. When it comes to celebrating the successes, can we have a dance party, please?
That's a great note to land on. Anyone else have anything before we leave? I have my own little note, which is go Patriots, but no one else wants to say that, I think.
I think I can say this because I'm not a state employee and I'm technically not on work time. I think it's just really important for all of us to remember that the legislature is currently meeting, and anything you can do around advocacy for increasing the funding for early learning, including increases to the reimbursement rates for family child care providers and centers, is really critical right now and really timely. So I just want to end on that note that we have a moment to influence, and there are a lot of people in this room who are connected to a lot of people, and we need to fight for a continued investment in early learning through Early Achievers and through more funding in the subsidy program.
So we mentioned it before, but the market rate survey is live now. So trying to get 75% of providers to respond. So if you can help us out. I think if you're a provider, you probably received multiple reminders already. If you haven't, well, help us with that. They'll also be receiving phone calls. All right. Any last comments from anyone else? Okay, I don't see any last questions, comments. So have a great rest of the weekend. Have fun Super Bowl. And we'll see you guys in routine. Or Puppy Bowl. That's a good point. All right. Thanks, everyone.